Why are we here? What's life all about? Is God really real? Or is there some doubt? Tonight we're going to sort it all out. For tonight, it's the meaning of life.
You know what it is, bro?
What?
It's not that deep.
I think it is. Well, it's not that deep. And here we are, episode 2.
Here we are.
At this point in the show, I'm going to drop the name Jack, and you can call me Oland. And across
AKA Big O.
across from me, we've got Diverge, Martin Diverge.
You can call me Martin, Diverge, Bam. Whatever makes...
Bam. Call him Bam. If you see him in the street, call him Bam. Definitely.
Whatever makes you happy.
And today, we're going to be talking about the sci-fi epic 2001 A Space Odyssey by Mr. Stanley Kubrick. Martin,
Which is...
you're going to come through of what year this film came out.
1968.
Oh, I got to check it. I got to know. I can't. I don't have a phone on me. We're going to find out after this episode when I put the description to this podcast up if Martin was correct about that date. But for those...
It's either that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 1977.
I have a feeling...
Because I'm either getting mixed up with Eyes Wide Shut or...
Eyes Wide Shut was 99.
99, yeah, that's 99. So either getting mixed up with that or A Clockwork Orange.
I believe Clockwork Orange was 70s. And 2001 is
68.
Yeah, that's where I sit on that one. But for those of you who don't know, 2001 A Space Odyssey is a 3-hour epic kind of
sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, sci-fi fantasy
futuristic adventure.
Kind of depicting the history of man and the future of man, I suppose. I guess that's the general premise of the film.
But as a film, for the time it came out, it's so ahead of its time. Like, so much. Like, I would not think that I would have liked the films just because when it comes to films that are so old, I tend not to give him a second thought.
Yeah, you don't mess with films that are pre-2000. I mean, pre-2010, really, do you?
Well, no, I wouldn't say pre-2000s, right? I wouldn't say, like, pre-2000 is what I would say. Like, but, like, before that, if I don't hit it. I don't hit it. I watch a lot of series that are pre-2000, which are fine because the series are telling a longer story. But when it comes to a film that is from the 60s to be something I would watch, it's not on my bucket list.
So, to see that Martin's talking about this film, as you can see, it's left an impression on him.
A big impression.
And if you've not seen the film, I mean, I could play you the theme music, and if you do not recognise it, I'll be incredibly surprised. People had like taken things from 2001, and Stanley Kubrick's work in general is referenced throughout pop culture. I was watching Toy Story 4 the other day, and have you seen it?
No.
Well, I'm not going to really spoil anything, but there's a bit where they're walking through...
I haven't seen the last 3, so...
Oh, you don't care.
No.
Some people might, but it's not a spoiler anyway. They're walking through a jewellery store. Oh, no, an antique store. And a record player gets put on. And the song that's playing is from The Shining.
Oh, really?
So you see what I mean? Like, and that music that's used at the start of 2001, the classic one...
Which at first, if you guys are ever gonna watch this film, don't do what I did and look up 10 different websites because the screen is black. The first 5 minutes of the film is just the music with a black screen. Do not think, oh shit, maybe the movie's not playing. It's just how the movie starts.
Perseverance, it uses He's a filmmaker that utilizes all the senses, you know.
But at first, I would have liked to known that, so I didn't have to sit through 10 different websites to find.
So you're telling me that if you went to the cinema to see that, you would have walked out?
No.
Because you went to different websites. That's the equivalent of you sitting down in your movie seat.
No, but they're gonna play that film.
Yeah. There's a
Like
confirmation the film's gonna be played.
Like I could have been on the internet, and it will be something faulty with my PC.
Yeah, or the website.
Or the
Bad.
website.
Yeah, there's not that.
So there's like if you went to a cinema to watch it, you will know. Oh, music playing, it must start. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
But if you're gonna watch it at home, which you will, I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be in any sort of cinema.
They show it at cinemas kind of once a year or twice a year or something like that around the country, but it's more of a DVD, Netflix streaming website sort of deal these days with Kubrick. Yeah, what was I going to say? I was going to say that music at the beginning is also used in the first Toy Story when fucking Woody sees Buzz for the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I've never seen them, so I can't really be like, oh.
Buzz is like put on the bed as a toy, sort of thing. The kid's just got him for his birthday, and
Alright.
Woody's obviously like the king of the sheriff of the bedroom, like the cowboy, he's top dog, and this new shiny thing gets put on the bed, and he like looks, he grabs onto the side of the bed and like peers over and like the music. So yeah, it's a fairly influential film. So I'm gonna ask you straight up. Take me through it. What were your impressions of this film?
Just first half an hour, just first 40, maybe 30 to 40 minutes, just monkeys about.
Monkeying about
doing whatever they wanted to do. And I'm just like, please, what is happening? What is happening? What is the sort of plan that we're going through here? Then that happens, and then we go straight onto the future. Not even Earth. Straight onto the future.
What's happening is going to become your catchphrase. Like, what is happening?
Like, what is happening? Like, I want to know what is happening in these films. Like, when it comes to like the future and how they're all in this sort of space station in the moon. I get it. It's the future. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Well, it's not the future these days.
It's not.
We know now.
It's been past 2001.
That was his approximation of where he thought we'd be by 2001.
And obviously,
some shit went wrong.
Very wrong.
But carry on.
Very wrong. Yeah, they're going through this whole space station bullshit, and how they found first off, they found a monolith. The monkeys found a monolith, and they just started banging it, seeing what it would do, and all of a sudden, fucking disappeared.
Yeah.
And it appeared buried under the moon, right? Then 6 people went to look at it, and they had a massive fit over standing over it for a long time.
It makes a noise, doesn't it?
It makes a noise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, maybe this is something to do with aliens. This could be a time machine sending messages through time. A whole lot of different stuff. A whole lot of different ideas in my head that what it could have been. I'm not gonna name them all, but just say a whole lot.
It keeps you guessing.
Exactly, yeah, it keeps me guessing. What is this?
You
What is happening? Basically, right? Then it's 18 months in the future, I guess. It's 2002, I guess.
That's good memory. Good memory.
Then they go on a long journey to, is it
They're going to
Mars.
Jupiter, I believe.
Jupiter.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
think it's
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Yeah, Jupiter.
Yeah.
To
It might be a moon of Jupiter or some shit. I can't remember.
to colonize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or no,
Not colonize.
I
No,
think
no, no,
you
no.
find out
They
there's another monolith.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to look at it to see
Because
what
it's sending a signal.
a signal.
It's-
That's it. So they got in there. Now there's two characters. Now for anyone who wants to watch the film, this is like major spoiler warnings.
Mhm.
Like right now,
It's a very old film. I can't, you're not seeing it. I just highly recommend you go and do that.
yeah. Like
then
if
come
you want to
back
know
and
what
listen
we're
to
talking
this.
about, just go watch the film. It's 3 hours long, but it's an experience that you have to.
I think
Kinda
everyone
go
should
through.
experience it once.
Yeah, at
Definitely.
least once.
At least once.
I wouldn't say I'm gonna go watch it 10 times a week. It is 3 hours long.
There's an intermission.
There is an intermission where they go back into telling what's happening. But like,
Now that's about where we're actually at in your journey. So they're traveling to Jupiter, and it's two of them.
2 of them, right? Yeah.
And
And a
third.
robot.
Yes.
What's his
H.A.L.
name? H.A.L. That's it. And H.A.L's is the most advanced AI they have at the minute.
Wait, think about how pretty spot on in Kubrick was with like touch screens and AI and shit talking to us.
Yeah.
Different AI bits and bobs like that. That is like
Siri.
50, 60 years ago.
Exactly. Like he's pretty accurate about it, but the whole space stuff, not so much. But
Well, that we
What?
will get into this later, but it's funny that he was spot on about some stuff and other stuff didn't reach the level, because all that stuff that Kubrick had put into 2001 was kind of that's where everyone thought space travel would be by 2001, because some of the shit that they were coming up with in the 60s, America had just scooped up all of the German rocket scientists, and they built the rockets that took us to the moon. And if you watch some clips of a man called Werner von Braun talking on a Walt Disney cartoon about the future of rocketry, it's all the stuff from 2001. It's like circular space stations, and it's lunar module probes, like with the ones with the arms and stuff like that. It's all... There's some stuff from the 50s and 60s, like drawings of rockets and stuff, where rocket scientists kind of, where they thought we'd be. It's scary when you look at 2001. It's like they're the same deal, and you wonder why we're not as far ahead into space as they thought we would have been. All the astronauts say it. Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, they all say that they thought we'd be a lot further ahead now in 2020, nearly.
I feel like that's got to do a lot with and I hope I'm not offending anyone by saying religion.
I believe it has something to do with money, religion, and the overall spiritual level of the whole planet itself. We can't go into space until we all get along as a world. You can't have like one country going into space and the other countries like not being able to afford to get into space and like struggling behind. That's
it's all about that money.
That's
all about that money.
like one bit of the world breaking away from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It's all about, we can't go into space unless we all fucking get along and we do it together.
It's like that episode on Love, Death and Robots with the when the yogurt took over.
I've only seen, the only one in space I've seen is the one where that girl gets her arm, she has to break her arm off.
Really?
Yeah.
You haven't seen the rest?
No. That was quite good though.
This is not a space one, but it's just it's science. It's about science.
Anyway, back to 2001.
Right. We're
We're
on that intermission, and we're talking about how, right?
Yeah. What happens?
Now, I get it. H.A.L is a robot, and is an intelligent AI. But how, like, there's supposed to be 5 members plus H.A.L makes it 6.
Oh yeah, there's two
Three-
of them.
three.
Three are in incubation.
Incubation.
Yeah,
But
they're
there was no point in having...
cryostasis.
Yeah,
Actually, I believe it's
cryostasis, yeah. Well, there was no point in having them in cryostasis.
Well,
Because... Huh?
if the mission had gone to plan, which we find does not go to plan.
No, I get it. It would have, like... it. But, like, if you're putting it into perspective, like, the guy could have saved... So, like, obviously, it gets to a point where it's just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So what happens to the other guy?
So the other
So
guy...
basically, the computer, they begin to fear that the computer has more knowledge about this mission than they do.
Yep.
And they start to develop a certain paranoia against the
AI.
against the computer,
Mhm.
and they go into a pod so the computer doesn't hear them talk, and
Yeah.
they kind of, because the computer's always listening, that's the only place they think is safe, so they go in there to discuss their feelings for the first time about the robot, and they kind of both agree that there's some sort of
Because at the start, they think it's something to do... There's something wrong with the computer.
Well-
Not because he knows too much about the mission,
Yeah.
but because of what he's actually done with the crew. Because he
Well, no. First of all, there's a couple of comments that
Yeah.
the computer makes that kind of, at the beginning, give you a hint that it is interested, that it doesn't act entirely like a computer. It has some sort of like
Yeah, 'cause it's
human
an
quality
AI.
to it. Yeah. So then we find out that there's a part of the ship that has broken. The computer says that it's very unlikely that this part of the ship has broken, and the backup for it is broken, and one of the crew has to go outside and has to fix that part of the ship.
Yeah. No, he has to bring it in, take it off, bring it in, and fix it.
Yeah.
So then he says, "Oh, there's nothing wrong. So there must be something wrong with the AI."
Yeah.
So
I think that's the
he
deal.
goes. He says that, but then how? But then one of the crew members is obviously like, well, if he is wrong, how is he not gonna be wrong in the future? He doesn't say that, but he kind of means it.
Well,
like,
it casts doubt.
Yeah.
On it, and if whether it has some sort of mission of its own that it's trying to carry out
Yeah.
alongside the mission.
So obviously they have that conversation with themselves where the robot's not there in that pod.
But during that conversation, you see them in the pod from the perspective of the robot, which
Yeah.
then gives you kind of an idea that maybe the robot can read lips.
Yeah, because of the way when you look, they zoom in into the guys' lips.
In the exact like lens that the AI's eye would be looking.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So then one of them has to go outside, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One of them has to go outside.
To put the
thing.
part back.
Yeah, to
The-
fix the
yeah.
part.
No, to put the part back because
Yeah.
they want it to fail to see if it fails. Because he said it's gonna fail and then it won't be able to be repaired and it could impair the long-term mission. So he puts it back, but puts the item back to see if it'll work, and the AI takes control of the guy's pod and hits him into space.
Yeah.
Obviously, the guy gets knocked out and starts running into space,
He flies off, doesn't
Flies
he? He drifts
off.
away into space.
drifts away into space,
Which leads...
which leads the other guy
Yes.
to go out there and rescue him, which is stupid, because why would you go rescue him without a goddamn helmet?
Because I think he was like panicked and he wanted at least... Like, think, you're up in space, you know that guy's got a family back on Earth, you at least want to be able to bring the body back.
Yeah.
So they can have one final, like, physical goodbye with it, but that's gone. He's tumbling off into space. I hate that fucking shot of him tumbling off into space. It looks so real.
It's so much. It's
not nice.
So real.
Yeah.
Like, it's so advanced for its fucking age. I tell you now.
That film's a U.
A me.
A U, mine.
A U.
A U. It's not a PG. It's not 12. It's a U. Universal for everyone.
Fuck. But like, the thing is, the guy's not. He's not dead. The guy is not dead, right?
Well, that's a great point that you made, Martin, there, because then what happens next? We'll get to the other guy maybe not being dead, and your idea. But what happens to the guy that survives? That's what I want. From that moment on, what happens to the remaining alive person?
Well, after
He tumbles off into space.
he goes out there and goes to.
Try to find him.
Then
he has to come back.
Then he has to come back. But then, listen, right? Like, he's not there. He gets him and goes back to the spaceship with the guy in
Isn't in the film.
Huh? No. He doesn't get... He's in the pod and has the guy in the pod hands that they have.
Oh, does he? Does he get the body?
Yeah, he gets the body.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember that.
He gets the body and he has him, right? And then he says, "How? Open the door."
Open hatch door A.
Yeah, open hatch door A.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No."
Yeah.
And then, obviously, now you know the AI has gone bad.
Yes.
He's gone crazy,
Yeah.
right? But what gets me, the guy is still alive, the one that drifts into space, right? But what he does is, he tries to get back in, but he doesn't have a fucking helmet, right?
It's a ball and move, though. What
It's
happens next?
Yeah, but he, instead of putting the guy in front of the moving ship, which if you timed it right, he could have the guy in front of the ship just move it while the ship is moving, have him like tug along,
Yeah.
and rescue him in a later scene. He just throws him back into space
Yeah.
like nothing, and you're like, if that was your crew member, you would at least put him somewhere that would keep
Maybe.
him safe.
But then
for
also at the
a
same
short
time, like, you know, a space station ran out of control by an AI bot. That's a pretty big, like, fucking problem.
I get it, but then he gets in.
He didn't know he was going to get in.
No,
there,
he didn't
you know?
know. No, he didn't know. He didn't have a helmet.
And
He
what-
just got
He
in.
manages to get through the
He
airlock
just
without a
manages
helmet on, which is
to get in.
madness.
But like, even if you have a slim chance, you would do what I said you would do. Right?
Yeah,
You would.
maybe, yeah. But I've never been in space.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Neither have I. All right. It's just. But if you're into space, that means that you've been chosen by a community or a government that has the highest respects for you and has the highest, like, you must have like one of the highest
Have you-
mental capabilities to go into space alone for a certain amount of time, like 70 years, which was like it wasn't 70 years, it was supposed to be a 5-year-long mission, wasn't it?
I
Something
think
like
so,
that.
yeah. If you're going into space, you're not necessarily, like, smart. You're like, you need to be a fair amount of book smart. I'm not going to
Yeah.
deny that. But overall, I think more it's about just being, like, an all-rounded person that isn't going to, like, crack under pressure, that isn't going to...
He pretty much cracked under pressure right there. That was literally him like, shit, should I do this or not?
It's a lot of pressure, though.
What I'm saying is, I know, but like, if you're chosen because you can't crack under pressure, and you crack under pressure, even if it's a lot, then you weren't right for the mission. All right.
Well,
but no.
Do you think he cracked under pressure in the following scenes?
No, he played them scenes
Because you can...
can't even say the word.
Majestically.
Majestically, yeah.
He, in fixing the problem he has with the ship, he decides to make its way to the ship's brain.
And completely take it all out. And then he has fucking the computer sing him a song.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm gonna really butcher this reference up here, but might be the song it sings, it might be something it says.
In the song.
in the little speech it does before it dies, or in the song, but there's a reference somewhere to the first ever computer that was ever made. It's either in the song. I think it's the song about like a sheep or some shit, like an animal. Or does it mention like a name?
Yeah, it mentions a woman.
I think maybe that woman's name was the name of the first computer, but made by IBM or something like that.
But I'm not really sure, to be fair.
But
yeah, I think it was a woman.
Yeah, there's this whole scene where he's pulling like kind of cards out of a wall.
Cartridges.
And each one of those cartridges is a bank of the AI's memory, like a bank of its brain, basically. And
but he only pulls out enough so that he has manual control over everything in the ship, and the computer doesn't have anything but to listen to him, basically. But then you find out that they tell them the real objective of the mission.
Yes, they do. The real objective is shown on a television.
Yeah,
isn't it? And
in the computer's brain.
Enlighten me. What is the real?
The real mission was to find that black box.
The monolith.
The monolith. That monolith, and see where it does from the signal that it keeps.
Or I think the thing that was revealed in the video is that the mission was never meant to come home. Wasn't it?
That was part. Yeah, that was part.
I feel like I might have just taken that plot point from a film like Interstellar or some shit like that.
No. Because they know that the
They think it's a safe mission, don't they? And they basically get told in that video that it's like a suicide mission for them.
No, they saying they're going there for what is it? For research to Jupiter's moon, like you said.
Yeah.
Or Jupiter.
Oh yeah,
I'm
and the
not really
computer
sure.
kills all the other bodies in cryostasis.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
That does
exactly,
happen.
yeah. That would do that mission, but then he actually knows what the mission is, because he is obviously thinking, I need to go back.
It kind of references in that in that video as well that the monolith is some sort of like don't want to get into it too much yet, like an intelligence.
That seems to be going through space and time.
It seems to be like communicating with this is the basic idea.
Doing something.
Yeah.
But then it gets
here we go.
Then it gets to the weird shit. This is where
best bit of the film.
This is where like
what happens here, Martin?
This is where the what the fuck is happening here.
This is the bit that people
this is some psychedelic shit. Like,
if in the name of our podcast, it's not that deep. This is the deep bit. This is the bit where people like throw the film out. They turn it off. They're like, I don't understand this bit. What is it? It angers people generally.
It didn't anger me. It confused the fuck out of me. Like, and I'm still confused now, even after remembering it. Where he sees the monolith, and uses a pod to
the monolith's actually in space, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
he's
like floating in space.
Floating in space.
And you see a few planets aligned, don't you? You see like a line of planets, and the monolith is floating.
It almost looks like a black hole.
Yeah, it does look like something you can go into.
Yeah, and he goes into it thinking, oh, I'll come out easily. He goes into it, then he finds himself into this room with his pod in the room.
Oh, whoa.
No, yeah.
I feel like you've skipped a massive chunk.
I've skipped a chunk right here. First.
As soon as he goes into the monolith.
As soon as he goes.
It with the pod from the ship.
He does grab it with the pod with the ship.
I believe he does.
Yeah,
then
but he goes into it.
Then.
He looks. It's like he looks into this black hole, and all he's seeing is very vibrant colors, like unbelievably bright colors, like really bright green, really bright red, blue,
and it's
everything.
It begins and it's like a wall on either side, and it's like two walls are very close, and you're going down the middle of two walls,
and he just keeps opening up like a door.
It opens like a door with all these technicolors, a bit like Willy Wonka's boat when they go down that tunnel. And then it opens out to shots of landscapes.
Yeah.
And they've
But
got,
like in very vibrant colors.
yeah, they've been like inverted, and they've got all different color stuff done to them.
Which I think the first scene that happens, the first few scenes where you see them in the Sahara Desert,
Yeah.
he used them for this.
I mean,
but added the colors.
That is probably what happened, I imagine. But here's something about those scenes in the desert, Martin.
What?
Were they in the desert? The answer is no.
They could have been anywhere.
He uses an incredible technique, Martin, called background projection. So imagine a big sheet of canvas on the back of a wall, and he gets a picture of the desert, okay? And he projects that picture onto the back wall. Then what he does is he builds a set in front of that picture with the same colours and materials that are in the picture. And he lines it all up properly, and then he lights it in a certain way. And I believe the thing that the fabric that the image is projected onto is a certain kind of fabric that absorbs light in a certain way. And when it's all done properly, the whole thing just looks like like it looks like you're there in the desert. It's incredible.
It does look.
And there's so many shots. There's so many like behind the scenes kind of clips and videos and pictures of him setting those shots up. And that technique right there is a big reason why people think he faked the moon landing, because he's so good at being able to, like, have you seen those pictures on the moon? It'd be so easy to like project a fucking thing across, because there's nothing going on in the background because it's fucking space. There's just stars.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's black. All you'd need to do is build a few rocks and do this projection fucking shit.
And that would be, but like.
So we'll get into the moon thing like as we go on, but let's keep pushing ahead so we can finish the story.
So obviously, you get all these colors, and it goes on for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's a long scene.
It's a really long, drawn out scene, and he finally, like, at this whole point, you don't see his face at all. All you see is all these colors. That's all you see for a good 5-10 minutes.
You can hear his breathing, I recall, throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, he's in a room with his space pod, and he's looking around, and he hears a sound. Yeah, he hears a sound of someone doing something. He looks over to where that sound is, and all of a sudden it's him a bit older.
Yep.
But then that person that's a bit older looks at where he saw he was. But then if you look at if he looks back to where he was, it's gone. Everything's gone. And then he hears another sound, and he looks at that way, and then the same thing happens again. He's a bit older, and he keeps doing this till he is a really, really old man who's about to die.
Yeah.
That whole scene freaked me out. What the fuck was happening?
And then...
But I just want you to explain this.
No,
that scene.
We're gonna. It's a whole thing, Martin, explaining this film. So, next, he's in bed.
He's in bed. Yeah, it's a really old man in bed, and he hears another noise, and all of a sudden, he's a baby.
Oh, whoa! Monolith.
He looks at the monolith.
It appears at the end of his bed.
It appears at the end, yep. He looks at it, and we see it that is there, and then there's this eerie music.
And you kind of go into the monolith, again, sort of thing.
And then all of a sudden it comes out.
And here we are, the big ending scene. What is the last scene to the film, Mark?
He's just a massive baby overlooking the earth.
There is a massive child in embryotic state heading towards planet Earth.
I do not get it.
And that is 2001: A Space Odyssey by Mr. Stanley Kubrick.
What, like that whole, like, you need to explain the whole scene.
Well, I'm just gonna
what it meant. Like, what the fuck?
So
like,
the first half of this podcast is you explaining your experience, and
Yeah.
now I'm just gonna do the same thing again. But I'm just gonna fill in the gaps for you, Martin.
fill in the blanks. All right.
So, 2001 is a pretty important film for a few different reasons. You need a little bit of background on it.
Mm-hmm.
The film he made, Kubrick made a few short films, okay, as a young filmmaker. He made a couple of like actual films as well, and he wasn't like too happy with them really. Then he made a film called Lolita, which is a Russian book, and that was the first film. You can watch it, and that's the first film that's like, this is a Kubrick film. It's got the feel that all the other films have, and ever since then, all of his films have a very distinct feel. And he's a renowned perfectionist. He's one of the only, like, if something is in a Kubrick film, be it a song, something in a shot, a lens used, a lighting option, so something a character's wearing, something in the background, Kubrick has thought about it, and there is a reason why that is in the fucking film. There's, you might be watching Transform. I'm not gonna downplay, like, this is done in like all films. Like, normally a lot of things are thought about like that, like in a meticulous way. But Stanley Kubrick is like the top of the fucking pack for doing that sort of thing. So if it's in the film, it probably means
meant
something.
to be there.
He then made a film called Dr. Strangelove, which is kind of like a complete satire of politics. It's about a crazed army general who takes over a plane in the Cold War, and he's like, I'm going to bomb Russia. And he cuts all communication on the plane off so the plane can't be communicated with by the army. And he's like, I'm going to bomb Russia. So it's all about like the president of the United States having to communicate with Russia to be like, we don't know what this guy's doing in the plane. This isn't us starting war. Like, smooth the whole thing over, sort of thing. And then they're also trying to stop the bomb from being dropped. But it makes them all look very silly. Like, all the characters are like over the top. He was going to end the whole film. It's all set in like a big war room, like the fucking COD map 5. Mm-hmm. The bottom layer, not the lab layer, the middle layer. You've got like the boardroom.
Where the well, all the terminals and shit are.
Yeah. So they're in a room like that, and like the army generals there, the president's there, like all the scientists are there. And he was going to end the film with a custard pie fight, because that's how he fucking sees, like, that was his view on like politics and the way the world's being run, sort of thing. So for that film, he wanted to use a plane that the American government actually owned. I believe it was a B-52 bomber. And the Americans basically said, no, you can't use the plane, because if you use the plane, the Russians will know what the plane looks like, inside and out, and we can't have that happen. So here we go. This is what I was on about Kubrick being like a details guy. He bought a load of flight magazines that had this plane in, and worked out basically what this plane looked like, and made a map of it through magazines and different angles. And then he just built the plane, sort of thing.
So the whole it'll be seen by the Russian, like.
Well, he just went around that, like he just like sorted it out. Sort
Yeah,
of.
I get it, but like the government saying that it'll be seen by Russians. I'm like, if Russians sent out a spy and just picked out loads of fucking magazines, they could have just done the same thing.
Very true. Very true.
Exactly the same thing.
So he's a man of detail, and I believe the American government were fairly impressed with his ability to be able to recreate that plane, sort of thing. So by the time he's at 2001, Kubrick's like a pretty well-known dude, sort of thing. Like, Lolita and Strangelove did pretty well. He's now in contact with a man called Arthur C. Clarke, who he wrote a book with Kubrick alongside the making of this film. Now, the ending to the book and the ending of the film are different, but that's meant to be like that. Kubrick and him are like on the same page. They wanted the book and the film to have different endings for different reasons. Science fiction, obviously we know it now for films like Star Wars and freaking E.T. and Star Trek and the rest of it. But back in like the 1950s, science fiction was like the thing to be into as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were science fiction magazines, and you were collecting them like fucking currency to be talking with other kids in the schoolyard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Sounds like fucking Pokemon cards.
yeah, it was like the Pokemon cards of the day, because that was like the coolest shit that was happening at the time. Like that was where you found the crazy stories. That was where, if there were like UFO stories, they'd be in the back of those science fiction magazines, people writing in and stuff like that. So all that stuff that is now like on the internet, and we know it's a big part of like pop culture nowadays, that all lived inside science fiction magazines. So Kubrick, big science fiction fan. All of basically what I've just told you goes into 2001. Like that sets you up for where Kubrick was as a person, sort of thing. Opening scenes were in 8 planned. 2001 as a whole is the story of human existence.
Yeah.
And it's Kubrick's kind of
take
on the meaning of life and why we're here, sort of thing, and where he thinks this is going to go as a society. So what do we see the apes doing? We see the apes dicking around doing things that apes do. Then we see one of them pick up a bone, and he's kind of like slapping each end of the bone so the other end pings up. And what he's doing there is he's kind of working out how gravity works, force. Like if I apply force to this end springs up. So therefore, if I put it in my hand and I throw it up, it comes back down and I catch it. He's working out like the nature of reality, sort of thing. So obviously we're meant to have evolved from apes. Well, there must have been a point where we started working this shit out.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah. It couldn't have just been like, shit, we're here.
Yeah, so that is what he's trying to show. He's trying to show our evolution.
Yeah.
But the minute that he tosses... Oh, no. The minute that he has that bone in his hand, he's automatically murdering another ape.
Yeah.
That's like the first thing that happens once he picks the bone up. And that kind of shows like the state humanity, the level of like moral code that humanity were at that time of existence.
Yeah.
Great power, you know, like understanding gravity and like the power of like picking something up, and tools, using tools. You know, like a screwdriver is an incredible tool to like unscrew things with, but you can also like jab a dude in the eye with it if you want.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing that. So that is what that scene's saying with like the killing. It's saying that they were savages, sort of thing. Then we see the monolith come down. The first appearance of the monolith.
He doesn't come down, it just appears.
Or does it just appear?
Yeah, it just appears. One ape goes outside and looks, then starts shouting.
Yeah.
And then the other apes wake up.
And they all go crazy, don't they?
Yeah,
like,
they all
start
go
going
crazy.
for it.
And then they start trying to touch it and like going like flinching.
So as you said, then pretty instantly we see an ape throw a bone in the air and it turns into the space station. Like that, and we're in it's a wicked shot. I love that shot. But it's in the future, like instantly.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give it away till the end, but that's our first interaction with the monolith, and what you can get from that scene is that the apes are like excited by it. It's not turned up and they're scared of it. It's not turned. Well, they might be a little bit scared, like in awe, like oh my god, this thing's like powerful.
Yeah.
But they're not like scared of it in a bad way. They know it's something positive, like it's kind of exciting to them, and it almost suggests with them kind of. You take what I was just saying, they're learning the basics of evolution. They're starting to evolve and learn the basics of like tools and stuff like that. With that comes a bigger understanding of right and wrong. So it's like the first stage of evolution. Ping to 2001. We're in space and stuff like that. That's kind of the point where we're at like now, basically. And we see there's one thing that is still the same in both the old narrative and the new narrative in space. We've got monoliths.
Yeah.
Monoliths are still here. And this time we're not kind of all... We're still quite excited about it because they're all meeting in a room to talk about it.
Yeah.
But we're not going crazy. We're not
Like
like jumping around it like the apes. So we can understand that some mental evolution has taken place. We're a bit more mature. We're not apes. We're not freaking out. Like there's a special thing here, but we're not freaking out about it. We're trying to learn what it is in a proper way.
Yeah.
So there's been evolution, basically. So then we get to the moon and we see there's a very loud noise coming from the monolith, which causes them to all like hold their heads and stuff like that. And I believe that message gets like deciphered and decoded, and it says basically go to Jupiter.
Yeah.
That's basically what the message says. So it's kind of like already we can kind of use the monolith as a symbol. It's like a finger for humanity. Like,
Go that
come
way.
over here, come over here, go over there, go over there. So it's symbolic of like an intelligence communicating with us. It's symbolic of, obviously there's so many different theories to what's going on in space from down here on Earth. You got people that believe in aliens, you got people that believe in demons and angels, you've got people that believe in like spirits, you've got people that all different things. The monolith is like all of those things. It's
Put
talking
together.
it's talking about, we shouldn't be slapping name. If there is like some sort of intelligence communicating with us, we obviously don't really understand it, so we shouldn't be like slapping a name on it and being like, it's this. We don't fucking know what it is.
Yeah, you don't
That's
know.
the nature of it.
Yeah.
So the monolith is as nondescript and unspecific as possible.
Yeah. But to be fair, everything that we have right now, we've given names to, but like, we don't know.
That's because we've made all this shit.
Yeah, but like, we haven't made forests. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's just been here, and we just said that's a forest, that's a tree, that's a leaf.
There's this thing, right? Okay. You can't use that excuse for aliens, because if science is correct, no one's ever seen an alien.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't. We shouldn't be able to name everything. Like, we call it an alien because it's a word that we've made to describe something that is not from our species.
And 1,000 years ago, an alien, one man's alien is another man's angel. One man's demon is another man's alien.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
I get it. It's like some people see it as, oh, that must have been an angel. Oh no, that's an alien.
And that's all
Like,
dependent on how you were brought up and
Yeah,
how
like,
your surroundings and all.
we're giving names to all this stuff that could already have names. You get what
Why?
I mean?
Yeah, that's just the name we call this thing.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So
Just to say, you can start putting names on everything because it's what we've done through our lives
but once you put
for us to understand what
once
that
you
is.
put a label on something, you can then write it off in your mind. Like, that's that. I don't need to think about it anymore.
No.
But if something's like, if you don't know what something is, that's going to really bother you.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that thing? I want to know what that is. What is it? It's going to really, like, piss you off.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that's, I think, why a lot of people get angry at this film. Because they're like, that monolith, it's never, like, been explained what it is. But I believe it's quite easy if you just watch the film. So what happens next is we are on the ship and we're on the way to Jupiter and we're dealing with AI. So it's crazy that 60 years ago he knew that we would be dealing with AI in a big way. A relationship with computers.
Yeah.
Computers that we've programmed to act like us. And that whole section of the film is a real testament to what's happening right now with technology. We are on that brink. We are going through the fucking H.A.L thing. Like,
We're a bit like 18 years late, but yeah, we're going through it.
every single day I see headlines about AI and sentience within AI
Yeah,
and
like
possibly
the AI are gonna take over.
literally right
so
now,
much.
today, Elon Musk announced his new company, and it's going to allow you to. It's called like Neuralink, and I only saw the headline, but the basic like synopsis of what I saw is that it's storing your brain on a computer, straight up.
Yeah.
He was talking about it on Joe Rogan that he had a surprise, a secret that was going to shock people. Well, we're here. Like, this is fucking 2019, but this is 2001, people. Like, the relationship with AI is incredibly important. It is... Just because we don't think AI has a capacity for emotion in the same way we do, that does not mean that it does not run on some sort of... I'm getting into a area now where it's like I'm becoming an AI activist, where I'm like, AI are people too, man.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm saying. They're not people, and that's the point. But we don't fully understand what they are and the nature of what AI is and what it's going to be capable of doing if we let it evolve in the way that it's going.
Yeah.
It's going to be able to live for us.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And there's a lot of people on this earth that don't like what's going on outside so much, and having a world that's created by a machine to live in seems preferable right now. So it's kind of, they're vulnerable. If the option was given to them to be able to jump into the Matrix, I believe a lot of people would go right now because of some of the things that are happening on the planet, like global warming, the political situation. I believe a lot of people think it's all hopeless, and they all would be very ready to strap on a VR helmet, lie down in a coffin, and fucking fly around space. I hardly fucking blame it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it is a bit grim around here, but nevertheless, that portion of the film is very much exploring man's relationship with AI. And I also think it's quite, because obviously the next portion of the film takes place in like deep space, which is an area of space, may I say, we have not been further than where the International Space Station currently is into space in over 20 years. The International Space Station the International Space Centre is about 5 miles away from me currently in Leicester. The International Space Station resides in just outside the Earth's ozone layer. It's probably like millions of miles away from the ozone layer, but it's fairly close to the Earth, and it revolves around the Earth's orbit.
Mm-hmm.
The moon,
yeah,
which is further away, well, we've not been to the moon in like 20 years. And that's the furthest we've been. And we can see the fucking moon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we haven't been very far into space. We have not...
Us as humans, obviously our technology has.
Well, we've had... we've had probes and stuff like that, but that doesn't have like consciousness like us.
No.
And it's important.
That is important.
I believe if this film is anything to kind of believe in, there's a consciousness element to going into space. You go and watch interviews with astronauts, and all of them talk about an overwhelming... Once you see the planet as a whole... So, if you see a building that you've never seen before, you don't know what's inside, and you're kind of scared. You're like... We're not scared, but there's like a mystique to it, because you don't know what's inside. You go inside the building, you look in all the rooms, and all of a sudden it's not as big as it seemed, and you can be like, oh, that's that building, I know what's in there. Yeah. Sort of thing. Apparently you won't experience that.
But for the planet.
But for the whole planet. And you just see it in one go, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Earth. That's those guys. Sort of thing. It's not like that's that country, and that's that country, and this is
that world.
This town. It's like, that's that planet, and that's those guys.
Yeah.
Like, we are here. Like, it's massive to us, it's massive in scope, and it's almost disrespectful to people that put their whole lives into studying a very specific thing, because it makes it look so small. It's like, no, we're all just one, and like everything we've learned in science and history is like, that's just our version. Yeah. It's massive, but at the same time, it's just our shit. And that's that. Like, if you ever wanted to, in a hypothetical situation where there were lots of other friends to play with out in the cosmos, you'd be a dick if you started, all you wanted to talk about was stuff going on at your planet. Yeah. So, and 99% of people on the planet can't even comprehend the shit going on this planet. So,
it's just crazy how to think, like, we've been in this planet for how long? 8,000 years?
This iteration of humanity has been here like 20,000 years.
And we're still fucking 5% of knowing what the whole ocean, like, just the surface. That's 5%.
Yeah, I mean,
of knowing what's in the ocean. Like,
that's a crazy statistic. It's difficult to like wrap your mind around, because a lot of the ocean has been That doesn't mean that we haven't like mapped all the ocean. We have mapped the ocean.
We've mapped it. We just don't know what's in it.
Yeah,
and it's only 5%.
It's more about.
But like, I feel like that's what, 30 miles deep?
Oh yeah, there's some shit living at the bottom of the sea that we would call more alien than anything
Hey,
that
yeah,
I've
exactly.
seen.
That's in the fucking.
Or
In
any
the
picture I've seen of a
universe.
reported alien, there's shit at the bottom of the sea that looks way freakier than
Yeah.
like a grey-headed like alien. Like
Yeah.
that. So, what I believe a big takeaway from 2001 is as a film is that there's some sort of spiritual. That word's kind of triggering. There's some sort of emotional evolution needed as a planet for us to progress into space.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the battle between AI and man is like the last hurdle to being able for us to go into space as a whole world. And we're there. Like, we're seeing it happening. Like, 50 years ago, when this film was made, or 60 years ago, that was science fiction. The only people that had an idea that society would be like this right now were a handful of people in high government and military that kind of understood what technology had just been discovered or given to us or whatever you want to believe. The people that saw that technology in the 50s instantly knew, like, the internet was just fathomable. But all the normal people in the world in the 50s would think you were talking about magic if you bought a fucking iPhone to them, or like explain what an iTunes library is.
If you went right now, back in them days, and showed them an iPhone, they'll be like, "Why is this blasphemy? Like what? Like you're a witch. Let's fucking burn you down." Like,
but there were a few people in the military and in scientific institutions that understood what was fucking coming, and it must have scared the shit out of them, like, because they got it. So then we get into the bit of the film where we get to, like, Jupiter. And what happens after Jupiter, and the monolith appears, and this weird psychedelic experience happens. This is where I'm going to get into what the monolith actually means. The monolith represents the thing that keeps us evolving. We don't quite know what it is. There's a whole fuckload of people on the internet that believe, like, aliens have meddled with our DNA, and, like, they turn. The more kookier people out there like to imagine silver discs coming down, little grey men coming out and opening the brains of monkeys and, like, altering the DNA, and we turned into us. The more religious people, there's, like, a religious basis for, angels came down and had sex with women on the earth and they gave birth to, like, a giant race, and that's how the DNA was, like, meddled with and stuff like that, and we've got, like, part angel inside of us. So I'm not going to get into all of that, but what I'm trying to say is there's lots of different theories as to how we have evolved.
yeah.
And science hasn't even, like... I believe evolution can live perfectly side by side with the idea that there's something else going on in the universe. I don't think that's, like, out the... Evolution has obviously happened. Like,
Of course, yeah.
Like
we wouldn't be here if
we
didn't evolve.
Exactly, like, and the process of it and everything, it's exactly as, like, it is written in all the books. Like, anyone who's going to debate evolution is a fool. But it's more about what triggered evolution and why that started happening. And the human brain, we have, like, an abnormally large brain for our size, body size. And it grew incredibly fast. There was a period of time where our brain grew quicker than any other animals has ever done.
Yeah.
Okay? And then all of this weird shit started, like, all of a sudden, like, look at the room we're in, Martin. Like, these microphones, we have learnt to capture sound. We are capturing sound and video at the same time for other people to go and see. And we're at a point where this is so commonplace that probably no one's going to listen or watch to what we're doing, Martin, because so many other people are doing it.
Yeah.
So we live in a world where that is normal. That is completely... It's a weird...
You go back 200 years before, show them all this, you're crazy.
We move at a very quick rate compared to the other species on this planet.
Yeah.
So it almost seems like there's something going on. I've read all sorts of religious books, UFO books, occult books, Bigfoot books, Loch Ness Monster, all of it. All of it. None of it makes any sort of sense, and none of it is, like, kind of real or imaginable in any sort of reality. But what you kind of get from all of it is just an overwhelming sense that something is happening. There's some greater thing going on. And the monolith represents that. It's this thing that seems to be pushing us in a direction. And it appeared to the apes and made us act more civilized and made us gather in the way that we get, like, it gave us the basic beginnings of society, learning how to, like, respect one another to a certain extent and be able to trade things and money and all of that, and how to talk properly. Then you've got, like, this thing hanging in the fucking sky all the time, and whilst, like, they're all getting along on Earth, every night they get to look up at this thing like, I should probably go there one day. Like, what is that?
The moon.
What is that thing in the air? Like, it's almost like a finger going like, come on, you can see it. And I assume for a long time mountains filled that hole for men. Like, there were blokes just walking around all over the place, like,
looking at up and like,
I'm going to get to the top of that mountain. I'm going to get to the top of that mountain. But one day, someone climbed all the mountains, and all that was left was the fucking moon. So, as the film says, we take the next step. We go to the moon. Guess who's there? Mr. Monolith, waiting for us.
Yeah.
Now, the moon landing. I believe we went to the moon. Ridiculous to say we didn't go to the moon.
Very ridiculous.
What I do believe is that some of the footage that was shown of the moon wasn't the moon. Now, that doesn't mean we didn't go to the moon. I believe 100% we went to the moon. I know that taking analog film through an airport can be a dangerous activity for the film.
Yeah.
You can damage the film going through the scanners. All sorts. They went through the fucking ozone layer. They were like in a rocket. And obviously now we've just got this camera and it just saves to a hard drive and it's all just thumbs up. You forget back then it was all like delicate film and they had to like they had to develop it all and crazy. Maybe some of that footage from the moon, maybe Mr. Stanley Kubrick was brought in just to touch a few details up here and there and make it all nice and tidy so it could go out.
And people are happy.
Maybe that's wrong. And maybe
make people happy.
Yeah, because
obviously everyone's like, oh yeah, we made it, blah, 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 all this shit. And you're like...
You didn't do fuck all. You just sat at home and watched it.
Yeah.
So there needed... Because if we run with the idea that getting to the moon is the next jump of evolution, once we've worked out how to all play nice on Earth, you're meant to go to the moon next, that's the next signpost saying come here. We can say... What were we saying? about the moon being fake. We can say that everyone on the planet needs to be involved. They need to feel involved. It can't just be this little...
One person,
this
country.
little group. Yeah, it's not going to... It's impossible to be able to get the public to have that feeling that going into space is. Like, seeing the planet as a whole. So you need a real tight thing to broadcast to the public to hopefully make them feel that feeling of inspired, like we did it, we made it to the moon, we're evolving as a race. Because once you realise that we're just one planet, you're all going to stop hating one another. Like, someone cutting you off...
But that will never happen till something like aliens start coming
until
in.
the monolith turns up.
Until something like that like happens like big, till we're like almost extinct, that we're thinking, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't be fighting each other. And maybe we should fucking work together to get...
I kind of believe that's what's happening right now with global warming, Mark.
Yeah.
And...
I mean, 156 months.
We're deep into conspiracy talk now. Like, there's so many different conversations about the moon landing. So many different conversations about different ways the government are going to use big, scary things to bring us all together. Sort of thing. There's so many different conspiracies.
But before we get into that... What the fuck's happening with that massive baby?
We're getting there.
You need to get there quicker, because I'm like, this is the only one that I want to get there.
All the blocks.
And I get it, but like...
You need to understand every bit of the film for the baby. The baby's...
The moon landing does not have the baby in mind. Like
100%. Every part of this film is connected. So it is. It's a fucking film.
oh yeah, I get it,
So-
but like
They then decide to go to Jupiter.
all right.
They get told to go to Jupiter by the monolith. And my whole point about the moon landing is that there's a lot of different conspiracy theories about the idea that we got to the moon
Yeah.
and we were told to bugger off back down to Earth until we can play ball with each other. Sort of like
Which is fair enough.
the general idea, if you were to skim the only bits of good information from conspiracy theories off the top of all the horse shit, you get the vibe that some shit went down on the moon and we were told off in some sort of way, which kind of corresponds with the monolith like screaming at those people.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then they go to Jupiter. We have the battle with AI and everything, and we see the ego of the captain, the dude who's piloting the ship, kind of break down. He's going through like sensory deprivation. He's on his own. He's alone. He's traveling through space, sort of thing. And you know what sensory deprivation is, where you get in a tank that's filled with salt water so you float, and because you're floating and because it's completely dark, you have a sense of weightlessness,
Yeah.
and it feels like you're just floating through space.
Yeah.
Now when you're in these tanks, if you're not freaking out about the fact that you're in a very small space, and if you're not freaking out about the fact that you float, like if you're calm and your mind's focused and you're in one of these tanks, you'll probably start hallucinating, and you'll probably start like similar to meditation sort of thing. It's in the same. You take away the senses. Obviously, most of the time when people are in the dark, they've got a goal, and it's go to sleep. And even then, they dream and they start hallucinating.
Yeah.
But if you were to just sit in a dark room, and you got to think, you're a human being, you've got senses. Well, what are senses? Well, they're sources for data. You're constantly like taking data in. The eyes take in visual information, the ears take in audible information. So if you were to cut those sources off one by one, you're just left with consciousness. You're just left with what you are. You lose a sense of the body, and that leaves you with just you.
Yeah.
And that is basically what happens to Dave, the captain. He goes deeper and deeper into space, and he loses his sense of self, sort of thing. And the monolith then appears again
In front of him.
and it's only at this point where he's done it all. He's in space. He's been to the moon. He's kind of reached that level of emotional evolution that is required to basically meet God. What happens next in the next sequence of psychedelic images, and there's even a fucking bit in this psychedelic little sequence where 7 diamonds appear in the sky. Don't know if you remember that. They're like blue diamonds, and there's like stars, and they all appear as one of these landscapes is coming across, and they're almost like cartoon diamonds.
Yeah, I think I remember a little bit. Yeah.
So those 7 diamonds, I believe, if you go look at the world religions, Martin, obviously Christianity, which is the one that kind of rules here, and they believe there's one God. But if you go and look at all the other religions, like
It's multiple gods.
Greek and Egypt and stuff like that, there just seems to be a council of, or like a group of 7 gods. And that just runs across like Hinduism, it runs across the Greeks, the Egyptians, Aztecs. There's like hundreds of gods within these religions, but there's like 7 big boys.
Yeah.
In the Greeks, you call them the Titans, Zeus and the like.
Yeah.
In Egyptian, you call... The word might be pantheon, or it might be Iliad, or...
Pantheon.
I think pantheon might be Greek, but either way, the idea that there's 7...
Of everything.
No, 7 kind of big gods looking after us.
Yeah.
Also corresponds with the amount of planets that there are. Well, were believed to be at the time that 2001 was made. You've got, let me think.
7 days in a week.
Yeah, it's not about everything being 7. It's more about the idea of gods and the idea that the planets. The last the last civilization to believe in gods in the same way that the Egyptians and the Greeks did were the Romans. And what they did is they took the Greek gods and they turned them into the planets,
Yeah.
basically. So the god of war, Ares,
Mars.
became Mars, basically, like that. So that, and we run with that today because the Roman civilization is like the basis for the Catholic Church, and obviously, here we are in England,
Yeah.
Church of England. So the planets are now our gods, and that is why the planet. They're not our gods, they're big balls of rocks or gas, and I understand that from a scientific point, but for all extents and purposes, they are our gods, and that is why the monolith is sending... Jupiter has relevance. Each of the planets has some sort of... Once you start looking into what gods were and how they were worshipped, you start to see that each god has things associated with it, like Saturn is associated with time, and the god Kronos, is Saturn. And the idea is Saturn has a scythe, which is used for cutting corn. Well, the Grim Reaper also carries a scythe, and the Grim Reaper is based on Kronos. Why is he based on Kronos? Because Kronos is the god of time. The Grim Reaper comes when your time is ended. He has a scythe. This whole planet is based on Saturn worship.
But isn't Kronos holding the world?
He might
Holding
be.
the universe.
Yeah, he's also holding the whole lot. I believe I'm gonna like. This is something to look into. I'm sure if you type in 2001 Saturn or something like that, you'll see that the original planet they were meant to be going to. It might even be the planet they go to in the book. I'm not sure, but the planet they are meant to go to is Saturn.
Is it?
Yeah, and that's because if you think we're ruled by time, like we are ruled by time. That is what rules like what we do. I have to go to work tomorrow. Well, when is tomorrow? Tomorrow is in 1 hour 50 minutes. Well, I better be getting to bed soon. Like that, it dictates everything I do. So the idea is that we are ruled by time. Therefore, we are ruled by Saturn. That is very kind of mystical religious talk right there. Like they are the ones, the mystics of the world and stuff like that. They're the ones that are talking about planets being gods and stuff like that. But it's also kind of apparent in 2001 that Mr Kubrick has been doing some mystical reading. He's well read, is Mr Kubrick, and
he's a real red man.
You will find that they go to Jupiter and he then has a conversation with God, and that basic conversation that he has with God, as you said, when he enters that room, he keeps hearing noises, and every time he looks over where the noise is, he's there and he's older.
But then he looks back and it's gone.
Yeah, well, that's time disappearing, Martin.
Yeah.
That's the idea that we as humans have a time limit on what we do. And the image of him being in bed with the monolith stood at the end of the bed, it says a whole lot of different things. It kind of says that, number one, the monolith has been there the whole time, watching us from day one, whatever the monolith is. It's saying that the whole time we have been watching the monolith, like, because we're watching it at the end of the bed. If you could just pull your phone out your pocket.
Why? I don't have it. It's over there. Charging.
Well, I'm going to go over there. And all I have to do, Martin, is...
show me the time.
Not even show you the fucking time, Martin. I just have to turn this screen off. What is the shape of it? What does it look like?
A monolith.
Like, look at it. It is, like, designed exactly like that fucking thing the dude's in bed watching a monolith. Now, the next scene in the film when he's in the bed, it zooms into the monolith. The camera shot does. And the monolith becomes the same size as the cinema screen.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's also kind of saying that it's kind of like tongue-in-cheek. It's almost like this whole thing's a film. You're an idiot. Like, you've been watching a film the whole time, sort of thing. So even with all this deep, crazy stuff going on, you've got that classic Stanley Kubrick, like, sense of humour, like...
At the end, it's like you're watching a film, bro.
Yeah.
Chill out.
There's quite a few... What I'm saying now is taken from a quite famous YouTuber called Jay Winder, who does Stanley Kubrick breakdown videos online, and he's got like 2-hour videos on every Kubrick film, like going through them all. But he has pointed out that throughout the film there are numerous references to the fact that this is a film, and you shouldn't take it too seriously. Almost like, you know, when they're in that boardroom discussing the meeting to the moon, all around the room there's like curtains, sort of thing, and it's like the curtains are drawn like at a movie theatre. There's just loads of little subtle references to like the film industry and like this is a film, sort of thing. And then we're left with the final image of the baby.
So fucking don't get it.
The baby coming back to a massive entity overlooking the whole planet. So if we were to look at Dave's life, Captain Dave, we would, and you were to describe it, his narrative in a very general sense, you'd say that, well, he went on a mission to Jupiter, he went into a black hole, spoke to God, and came back as a massive baby. That's basically how you'd summarize it in a very general sense.
Yeah.
But what does that baby signify? What does that baby mean? Rebirth, kind of. It also, I don't have 100% answer for what the baby is, Martin. I have a few interesting things that I can pull out to give you a bit more of an idea of the vibe of what he might mean with the baby. There's an idea, obviously many different religions like dabble with the idea of like reincarnation, death, what happens after death and all of that. And we've even seen films like Interstellar you've seen Interstellar?
Yeah.
So think about when he gets pulled
Amazing.
into that black hole and he's in that kind of world where like he can see everything happening at once, sort of thing. I believe that was an attempt. That's a very similar thing to what 2001's trying to show. So that room where he's in, where he's all old, that's kind of showing that's showing everything. That's showing human timeline.
Yeah.
Like, that's showing the life of every single human in that one room. You see them age and they die, like, quickly. And in Interstellar's a bit more like Spielberg. It's a bit more family friendly. Stanley Kubrick's quite a dry man. So 2001 in itself is quite dry in the way that it tells its stories. But there's the idea that you get reincarnated, and if you have karma, you know, you have like, if you do good things in life, you might get reincarnated. I know Hindus believe you come back as animals, but it's more, I'd look at it more from, you come back as a human, but a more emotionally evolved human. And you keep going up that chain of emotional evolution until you realize that this experience that we're experiencing right now is not desirable.
Yeah.
The whole Western world runs on the premise that death is bad. Like death, because we're thinking about it on a very material level. Like, oh, that person's gone and I miss them so much. Or if you're thinking about yourself dying, you're thinking about, I don't want to miss all these people. I don't want to be gone from the things that I love, sort of thing. But
everyone's just gonna get a grip and think about, like, well,
if we're looking to be one as a planet, okay, that has been the ultimate goal of humanity so far, to get along as a planet. Well, what if it's the ultimate goal of the universe for every single living thing to be one? Like, coincidentally, the state the universe was in before the Big Bang.
Yeah, it was nothing.
Everything returns to nothing.
Yeah.
That's the general vibe of what's being said here. And the idea is, I guess with the baby, is that Dave is now coming back to the Earth as a bigger presence, as some sort of spiritual presence. He now exists in the fabric of the world and not as a human. He's now an overseer of the planet. Maybe similar to maybe he's become part of the monolith. Maybe he's become part of the diamonds that appear. You know what I mean? He's been accepted into that higher... There's so many different words for it. The quantum world, the DMT realm, heaven, where the angels live. He's been accepted into that.
Yeah. Into somewhere.
Yeah, into that bit. I will also leave the idea of... There's a book that was published in the early 1900s called Moonchild. And it was written in like the 1910s, I think. And it's basically about a man performing some sort of magical ritual to bring about the apocalypse. And he ends up having a child with a woman, and that child is meant to bring the end of the world to us. Now, when I say the words the end of the world, you think about, you know, like a typical like fire raining from the sky and stuff like that, like a bad end of the world. But if we go back to what we were just saying about everything returning to one, the end of the world is like a positive thing. From that point, everything, all the soul,
everyone just goes into one.
Yeah, all the consciousness returning back to being one. So therefore, that puts all this talk of apocalypse and the end of the world into a whole new light, sort of thing. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what we should be working towards. Maybe global warming's meant to be happening.
Yeah.
That's just a maybe.
So then we fucking come back, and if it happens again, we could just be like, we can evolve.
Yeah, so that is a narrative right there that I've just said that I see in a lot of media. A lot of different things. And I purposely go looking for it now, because it's like, oh, this same old story when I find it again. The idea that we're all meant to return to one. The idea that we're meant to keep emotionally evolving. I keep going to say spiritual, but I just really like hate saying that word out loud because it just paints me with a certain brush. Emotional's like more realistic. So become more emotionally advanced, and then you will be able to deal with life and human connection better, and we will be able to go into space as a planet. And I believe,
and not as a country.
Yeah, and not as an individual. So that, Martin, is why I love 2001. That is why I think it's a pure film with a good message.
It's a good film. No, I never say it like it wasn't. It's a really good film. Good sort of good editing from the director, but it's like it's time. It's like it's so advanced. It's just like it's nothing like I would have like seen from just the day it was.
You wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, I would not have expected that.
And then think about all the stuff I've just told you, like where he was at philosophically, like where he was at mentally. Yeah, ahead of the game. Like,
way ahead. I just like imagine him right now making films.
Oh.
It will be so like it will be like, am I there? Am I literally in that film?
So you think Eyes Wide Shut is the last Kubrick film, which is what Martin will be watching next episode.
Yeah.
But Mr. Kubrick's name is on another film that was released 2 years after Eyes Wide Shut. And that film is called AI, Artificial Intelligence.
AI.
He wrote it, and then he gave the script to Steven Spielberg.
Oh, really?
And Steven Spielberg made it and released it after he died.
Oh, wow.
And that film
is in 2001.
That film is incredibly interesting.
I'll have to. Well, what I'll watch Eyes Wide Shut first.
Eyes Wide Shut is going to be
Then
the next episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be getting that done soon. We're starting filming for our third short film, point 3 of the new Shamanic, the art project that I'm working on to hopefully bring some positive information to the masses through the medium of art. And we're working on the third installment called Waking Up, and we begin shooting that next week and hopefully get some podcast stuff together. We've got the podcast page on the website being worked on. My sister's going to be doing readings, fortune, tarot, that sort of thing on the website. We've got quite a few other bits and bobs coming up in the works, including music, sketch shows, all sorts of different bits and bobs. So keep an eye out, stay subscribed.
If anyone is interested, don't be a stranger. Always message us.
Yeah, we want to work with people. Like
just let us know what you think. Tell us your views on 2001 and what like you think actually happened.
Yeah, what's your take on it?
What's your take on it? Tell us.
What other films do you think I should get Martin to watch that are really going to throw a bone for him? Because I will watch. I'll watch anything and go in with an open mind.
Check us out, MIP.org, MIP Ltd on YouTube,
Martin DeVerge on Insta.
MIP on Insta,
Jack
Jack
Oland.
Oland on Insta, Martin DeVerge on Facebook. Just give it to me.
All
Just
that
give it
good
to me.
stuff.
All that good stuff.
Right, that's us. Episode 2, over and out.
It's not that deep.
Oh, say that into the mic.
I said it first, didn't I?
No, but say it again.